as a yoga teacher, I feel we have just so much on the plate. We keep going back and forth what to prioritize first, right? So I used to initially always start with Surya Namaskars and keeping pranayam in mind because given my Vat with Kaf Prakriti, I knew that over excessive practice is not good for me. So if I am working too much on my physical body, that is actually kind of working against me. So I
Mm.
always try to balance it with 50% pranayam and working out 50% of my capacity because over time I have also come to believe that it is more about pranayam, right? And then as my practice went along, especially during the COVID times, I also realized that it is not even about pranayam. It's until you don't reach meditation, you have more or less wasted your time in asana and pranayam itself. So while there is excessive amount of respect for all the way yoga has spread throughout the country, not for one reason of in terms of employment, but just generally in terms of health awareness and the fact that up till now there are so many things that we look ahead in terms of the West, right? So, but yoga ke terms mein, it is important that we realize that, okay, the source is here with us. And there's so much more around it as well, whether it comes to Ayurveda, whether it comes to naturopathy. So the whole Ayush system, I think, is a very whole soul system, which everybody should recognize. So I think उतने generic और उतने grand level पर उसकी awareness लाने के लिए we had to focus on the health benefits of asanas, on the health benefits of pranayama. But yet, if you see the common yoga protocol, there is still 10 minutes given for meditation. That the whole complete common yoga pranayam, common yoga protocol starts from warm up, goes into standing asana, sitting asana, prone postures, supine postures, and then going into pranayama, and then going into meditation. So there's a chanting element also in the beginning and the end. So it's a very holistic approach, but just elements are picked up in all aspects. So over time, my practice has transitioned from focusing on asana into focusing on pranayam and into taking out time for myself in terms of meditation first, pranayam second, and asana third. So I have been practicing since 2005, 2006 during my school time, and then I have played my nationals as well. So that was the time where asana practice was a non-negotiable. That is where I have explored flexibility to the most and also molded my body a lot. But after my school time, I also came to realize that that is not where I should stop. So in my college time period, I focused more on asana and pranayam and just keeping up with the basic flexibility. I was not very much inclined in terms of exploring all the advanced asana, and I feel advanced asanas are a little bit of a show off. And so I have just worked with them, but I have not went deep into them because I would rather give more time to pranayam than to deepen my practice. And post the first International Day of Yoga, so I was there at the Rajpath celebration as well on the stage. So post that, I had started performing at different stages as well. So I thought, okay, physical practice goes in alignment with my personal goals as well. And then I think COVID onwards, meditation hit differently. That after so many years of practice, after so many years of also struggle to wake up in the morning and practice, right, to have that discipline. When I went into meditation, things happened very naturally. I mean, my sleep time reduced, but the quality increased. I would wake up around 4 a.m. naturally. I would feel refreshed. I would have zero procrastination. I would have um, I was one thought away from executing anything that I wanted to. So all of
Wow.
those benefits that we hear in terms of yoga, I had experienced it when I dived into meditation. All the theoretical studies that I have done in any of my yoga courses, even during my masters, all of those turned into experience through my meditation practice. So that all, of course, credit goes to the guru that I follow, Samat Guru, right? Because I
Mm.
think when we talk in terms of yoga as well, having a guru is also a blessing in its own way. So I feel their practice, that is how my practice has evolved over time. And when it comes to asana, pranayam, meditation, even mudra and bandh, I feel bandhs are a very strong practice. It's hard to communicate online because I think their personal classes make a lot of difference in terms of communicating, in terms of giving the experience of pranayam and bandh, right? Asana practice, I think, is very well manageable online as well, online, offline, both. And mudras is something that I explored over time as well, again through Samarth Gurudhara only. And mm, there would be mudras that would work immediately in less than 2 minutes. There are mudras that work again over a time period of 3 months of practice. So I keep sharing that as well in my classes, especially with people with knee pains, joint pain, and small hacks and tips kind of ways that, like when you're having food and it gets stuck in your throat and you're coughing. So there is this Akash Mudra. So as soon as you do this, I mean, it it's a matter of seconds. It will not aggravate and it will resolve as early. And then people have cramps late at nights as well or during workout. So that goes for everybody, whether they are practicing yoga or whether they are practicing gym. So there is Varun Mudra that balances the water element. So cramps are also in less than 2 minutes. So quick hacks are only a way to just convey the impact. But yes, of course, if you want to work on something deeper, whether it is a physical issue, whether it is a mental issue, whether it is a back pain, whether it is nervousness, whether it is anxiety, there are mudras for that as well. But of course, they need prolonged time period of practice. So yeah, that's a little about me and my practice over time.
That, that transition, I mean, you've taken your journey from the depths of asana in school, college, to the subtler aspects. And if yoga is a part of your life, and especially if you're a teacher,
Yeah.
and like I also remember I used to have a teacher who would tell me, ki, don't get stuck in the asanas. And this is something I have seen a lot is that, like ideally there needs to be a pull where that, okay, asanas are just one phase and you need to be pulled into the subtler aspects of pranayam, of dhyan. Let's say if someone follows Patanjali yoga, then, the higher limbs. Why do practitioners get stuck in the asana phase for years when they know that actual progress is, it's a different direction? So why do you think that happens?
I think there are two things to that. One is, of course, like you said, I don't think everybody knows that. I think as teachers, yes, we understand that the endpoint game is meditation. But
Mm,
as practitioners, if I see on general basis, I think most of the people are wanting to explore yoga in terms of losing weight, losing inches, having more energy. I mean, if I see the better aspect, then the physical changes lesser than more internal changes, more metabolic changes in terms of diabetes, in terms of sleep disorders, all of that. But um, even when we take classes, right, how many of us are having participants who are looking at yoga as a spiritual practice, right? We are having asana practice, we are having pranayam practice, we have 10 minutes of guided meditation, but how many of us as teachers give time of silence in meditation? Because as much as I have classes, attended classes, there is usually guided meditation, let's say progressive body relaxation, some
mm,
visualization, some mental relaxation, but within a few breaths, as soon as the instruction closes, the shavasana is complete and you are requested to come out. While I feel the guided meditation is merely a technique and it takes you towards meditation, it takes you towards the zero thought situation of your mind. So, how many of us give time in that silence as teachers in terms of focusing more on meditation? And in my classes also, and as a holistic class, I always prefer again, warm up, asana, pranayam, and shavasana. Relaxation, meditation depends on how much time we have, what is the audience, and according to that.
mm,
And asana practice really impacts the meditation experience because, again, we need some physical energy outlet in the beginning. And that is not just
mm,
limited to asana. It can be a dance meditation, that's why. It can be some jumping meditation. Do any kind of physical movement, basically. That could be some subtle sukshma vyayam as well. So you let go of the physical extra surface energy, you let go of the mental extras of energy through pranayam on your mind, and then it's easier to settle into meditation directly. If we dive into it, then of course it's more of a challenge, but yeah, that's one that probably the ones who are not yoga teachers, the idea of yoga being a spiritual practice leading towards meditation, the relevance of meditation, I think is still has a little gap to reach to the audience. People are still looking out for more physical benefits, like, and I mean, we haven't left any stone unturned in terms of doing that in terms of marketing as well, whether it is
yeah.
prenatal yoga, postnatal yoga, weight loss, power yoga,
Mm,
aqua yoga, all of that, right? So, okay, there are gimmicks, I feel, and I feel probably those things are also working on some level, right? They act as a medium for you to come in contact with yoga. And maybe if a teacher is able to convey the experience, you go into other elements, right? So, I mean, it's okay, more or less. Second aspect, I feel why we get stuck at asana, let's say as teachers as well, maybe, is the mind is a very, very tricky tool, right? So I have also seen in my own practice that as soon as a practice becomes monotonous, as soon as you get to know all the takeaway points that you need to remember in any asana, the mind easily goes into a thinking process in the background. So I think that is where we lose the touch that it is not about the physical asana. It's about controlling the monkey mind, right? Controlling the wild elephant, so we say either ways, in terms of mind, right? Like we going down to the Patanjali's yoga definition of yoga chitta vritti nirodha, right? So chit being your mental state and vritti being all the mental fluctuations. So that is where the game begins. That is the second sutra for that matter, right? So that is where we lose touch. Asan comes so much later, right? Asan comes in the second chapter in probably around 30s, 40s sutra, right? But the second sutra is lost somewhere in translation, right? And there, when we misalign, of course, physical energy when you are into asana, like one of my very first teachers in terms of yoga, in terms of asana, he had this notion that you don't have to do 100 asana. One asana is enough for you. Any asana, one asana is enough to take you into meditation. Every asana has the capacity in the right element, in the right alignment to take you into meditation. So that is why, irrespective of age, irrespective of your weight, irrespective of your gender, and everything else, I mean, any asana can take you into meditation. The right alignment has to click. As soon as your body energy
Mm.
is balanced, as soon as your body weight is balanced, as soon as your breath is balanced, your left and right nostril is balanced, and that is there in that balance is there in every asana. So if we shift the focus into physical benefits of asana, this helps in sciatica, this helps in delaying the knee aging. We lose the primary aspect of asana that. So like जैसे हम कहते हैं कि आसन को सिद्ध करना is कि if you hold it for 2 hours 45 minutes, right? So it is not possible if you consciously try and do it. I saw one of your reels also wherein we are talking about Anant Samakti Bhyam, right?
Mm.
So basically just delving into the asana. So that comes through in asana only, right? So the ease of your effort and your mental relaxation. So it's not that you can achieve by force. You have to align into that frequency. The right posture of an asana helps you align in that frequency. So, and it takes you into meditation. So I feel as yoga teachers, I feel sometimes very limited that I'm not certain if I give that as a teacher, how many of the students are receptive to that, how many are ready for that, how many are looking for that. And that is where sometimes I feel that I'm not able to give that despite having experienced that. And I have seen my attendance go down as soon as I start focusing more on pranayam, as soon as I start focusing on these layers. So it is not that it is just a mental inhibition. I have seen that, I've experienced that in my classes that, okay, people are more keen on something, doing something more rigorous, something that they feel that, okay, something has done. While yoga is all about ease, it is working with the body. And I think that is where, uh, if you see few practices, strength and yoga practices, which are same, but the breathing is opposite, right? So in terms of yoga, we are working with the body, we are working with the gravity. In terms of building strength, we are working against the gravity, we're working against the body to help it build. Resistance will be built only if we work against it. So nothing is right and wrong, but what is the purpose? So in terms of yoga, if we see, then we are always working with the body to take it to the stage, to reach to meditation, right? So I think somewhere the openness of yoga as a spiritual tool rather than just physical benefit or mental benefit, we are still a little far away. And in my master's, I had read this line, and which I really like, that using yoga as a tool to reduce weight or work on your physical body only is like using an airplane like a bus. You can use it, of course, you can, but it's meant to make you fly. But you're only limiting its use by using it as a bus. So yeah, I think everything else is a byproduct. If you are mentally relaxed, if you are happier, your body is healthier, your each and every cell is healthier, your gut issues are reduced. So by default, your metabolism is working better, your immunity is working better. So I think that shift of yoga understanding as a spiritual tool, working on the mental modifications first, um, I think we still have some time, yeah, to be there.
So I think both of us understand that this is something that is like an aeroplane that can help us to fly. But do you think that the day it was positioned as a fitness activity is when it became like a bus?
Possibly, yes. But like I said, to reach masses, you have to give them a connecting point with which they can relate to. If it would have been spread out as a spiritual tool, which it is, which I don't think probably again people would have related to it that much, or we would have been able to focus in terms of spreading it across borders for that matter. So
Mm.
it is a beginning point, but it is not the end point. So that is why I feel, like I said, it's on the can't say on the same lines exactly, but yes, when I do corporate yoga sessions, I also start with some
Mm.
fun activity, some fun postures, right? Some postures wherein they feel that click that, okay, yeah, I need just like
Mm.
some shoulder rotations and they feel that, yeah, my shoulders were stuck and I did not even realize. So giving them some few pointers with which they can relate and then
Mm.
gradually taking them on that road of pranayama and then meditation and then relaxing that once then they get out their mind is blank. They might have had questions in the beginning. They might have had some fidgety energy in the beginning, but
Mm.
by the end of it, I see calmness. I see that we are just feeling relaxed. We are great, and I feel that is where we have conveyed the essence. And once if somebody gets a glimpse of that essence, I think they will find their way to the actual way, right? So yeah, I think that is true because we have only established it as a health benefit medium, but at the same time to I can't imagine any other better way to spread it across borders. Otherwise, if when we used to study also, the first thing is that it's a very, very intimate, closed knowledge that should not be given to anyone. It's a, guru shishya ki guru ही देगा,
Mm.
ही बताएगा. तो I think वो वाली चीज अभी भी मेडिटेशन के लेवल पे आज भी जायज है कि
Mm.
um, वो वाला जो essence है, the glimpse of that mental blissfulness that you achieve through meditation still can't be achieved without a guru in life. Of course, if you have past life experiences of your own practice, you may have still glimpses, but somebody to handhold you and take you into it who has himself experienced it or herself experienced it, who is themselves on this path, you need them. You need that blessing. Like when we talk in terms of bhakti yoga, right? It does not happen without a blessing of the divine, without the blessing of the guru. Whatever you do, कि करने को 50 साल भी प्रैक्टिस कर लो तो भी शायद ना हो और करने को 5 दिन भी कर लो तो भी हो जाए. So there is no maths there, right? In terms of bhakti yoga. So I feel there the relevance of a guru is still stands strong, and the knowledge that we used to keep as a very gem of a knowledge की गुप्त ज्ञान जिसे हम कहते हैं,
Gatekeeper.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, तो वो हम अभी भी meditation वाले essence में भी stand there, and yeah, I think somewhere maybe once I think many people are still, I feel over time, many people have become very open to meditation as well, to mindfulness as well. And somewhere we are there, but the relevance of a guru, because of course, all the fiascos that we have going around as well, it's always hard to find a teacher as well. But it can't work without a blessing, I think.
I think that generally जितना टाइम आसन को हम देते हैं या फिर जितना इम्पैक्ट ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन आसन्स के थ्रू आता है उससे कहीं ज्यादा हायर लिम्स से आ सकता है. आई मीन बेस्ड ऑन द टेक्स्ट एज वेल. Yeah, I think yoga itself has changed so much that if it's very different today as compared to what we are taught about it in the teacher training school also.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first time that I had noticed a lot of these conflicting experiences where, there are like, there is a certain knowledge of that is given in all of the texts from the classical yogic period, Hatha Pradipika, and even before that, Yoga Sutras, where yoga is defined in a very specific way. And then this used to be the philosophy class
Mm.
syllabus. But then the physical practice syllabus was way away from what philosophy classes used to teach. There in practice, there was this air of being competitive, of being physically on point, very little focus on the internal feeling of the asana itself. So at least that is where I felt like there is this dichotomy of in what we teach also in the yoga schools.
Mm.
Ki on one side we say yoga is not just asana, but when it comes to the asana part, it is not even about the asana in the asana class itself sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but I completely agree with a lot of the things that you said, like even the transition that happens, and very few people truly understand the value of the subtler, higher aspects. And ideally, everyone should be aiming for it, but I don't think everyone is destined to even go that towards that path. Maybe that's just how it is. And
Yeah.
but
I think when you say this um, unsaid I think this is a very unsaid competition when you are practicing in a group dynamic that who is able to hold for longer or who has the stamina to do the Surya Namaskar for longer duration. I think it is there as an unsaid pressure in terms of we judging ourselves, if not anybody else as well. And the internal effect or internal practice, like even in the smallest of thing, it took me a long time to transition my teaching method from doing to instructing. Because I saw that if I am doing alongside my instruction, then the receptivity of the people on the other side of the camera is very high. But if I stop and let's say I demo, I explain, I give the benefits like we are usually told in a teaching class module, and if I then instruct, then half of the people are still going blank, right? So
Hmm.
because we are more receptive with what we see than what we are listening, just, I mean,
Hmm.
even if we are ready to listen the left and right in terms of twisting asana is always fun to watch.
Oh
It is going
yeah,
to go off. So, I mean,
that is, yeah.
yeah. So, and especially, I mean, when you're sitting opposite face to face. So if this is my right, that is your left. So the same side of the hand. So the dynamic of, okay, so I start with, okay, lift up your right hand. So then the ones who are, there, so lifting the opposite hand. So then you can, let them know in the beginning only that no switch.
Yes.
So that one mental connection to your right and your left in a twisting asana can go for a toss, right? If we are not aware. So upside down if you're there, then the right and the left leg notion, all of that changes. So it is true that in a group class setting, while it has its own benefits of sharing the energy, the competitive feeling is somewhere there. And that is where we are somewhere also generalizing a very individual experience. Like you started with the notion that everybody has their own experience. So everybody has a different body. So what is natural for me may not be natural for you. And there is always a modification that we can work on as an individual level. But the feeling aspect is common for all of us, that how it should feel, right? So then if on the outside also there is a mild difference in how it looks, the more focus is there on how it should feel.
So you have seen so many experiences, aspects of yoga in its most authentic or, you know, closest to original form. A practitioner who is so rooted in all of these traditional practices, how was your experience in trying out something so different as strength training? And what prompted you to explore that side?
So I think when I connected your strength program, I think by that time I was a lot more mentally open to the notion that we need strength training, simple as that, honestly. When it comes to yoga and strength training, again, if I say that yoga is incomplete without strength, I can't say that, because then I'm again limiting it to asana. Then I'm again limiting it to physical health benefits, right? When we talk in terms of asana and yoga, then your body should be healthy. It should have energy. It should be supple. We are nowhere talking about toning. We are nowhere talking about strength. Technically, your body should be healthy enough to be in one posture, whether that posture is Padmasana, whether that posture is sitting cross-legged, whether that posture is Ardha Asana, whether that posture is Hastotanasana, or whether that posture is Shavasana. The body should be healthy enough that it can stay for long duration in meditation, that there should be no physical level of hindrance in your meditation practice. That is where asana comes into the picture when it is to yoga. When it comes to strength, when it comes to other forms of exercises, then we are only focusing on building the strength of the body. How much weight can we lift? How long can we survive? How long can we keep our joints healthy, right? And now that we are also coming into the awareness of how a female body needs more strength after specifically the age of 35, the natural bone deterioration in terms of physical health of a female, right? The liver or the hormonal changes. I mean, monthly hormonal changes, we are still trying to cope with that. But even phases hormonal changes, right? That puts in a lot of impact on our physical body health. And that is where strength goes as a non-negotiable, right? With me, what prompted me towards this was that because I was practicing since 2005, 2006, I feel I have retained a lot of my flexibility because of the age that I started at and the fact that I continued my practice but did not deepen it so much. And what I observed about myself in your classes was that I was, my body was attuned to holding the postures in deep stretches. But if I'm asked to hold in between, like let's say if this is the knee bend, this is the deep knee bend, this is on the ground, I can hold here. This is comfortable. But if I'm asked to hold up in the air somewhere in between, that is where my body is not able to take the load. Right. And that is where I think somewhere in my body it was impacting me. While I have always been focused on the outer edges of the feet being included in a practice, when you're stretching your toes in, then the little toe is as much stretched in as the big toe, that your foot is also not, stretching in more from one side and not on the other side. It's all about that it is pulling in from both sides, the feet alignment, pronation, and the knee alignment with that, the buttocks alignment with that, all of that. It has been the center of focus. But somewhere in between, the body got accustomed to the deep stretches. So my learning from your classes was that, building of the progressive building of the muscles in between reaching that depth, reaching that deep stretch is also equally important. Like there was a lot of focus on soft bending of your knees in your classes, which is something I have also seen in Pilates. I have practiced Pilates for 3 months in between, and that is there also. They were not at all focused on knee being straight. They were like knee soft bend, knee soft bend. Here
Mm.
also in your class, I saw that, right? And that is where I felt that if you engage the knee directly, if you keep the knee straight, its by default tendency is to take the load. So we lose the opportunity to strengthen the calf muscle and the thighs, the glutes and the hamstrings in the process of keeping the knee bent. So that really helped me. That gave me a shift of perspective of the relevance of keeping the knee bent. Basically, consciously, we are not engaging the knee so that we can engage the above and below muscles. So the notion or the idea that, of course, to keep the knee healthier, it is important that we keep the calf muscle strength also intact. We also keep the thighs intact, thigh muscles intact, right? Basically, to sit tall and straight, all you need is not just your back, but the side waist muscles, your core muscles, your diaphragm, your chest, your rib cage. All of that has to, all the muscles have to be semi-contracted, right? That is where the body, that is how the body is built. So over engaging of any muscles or under using of the muscles can put more load on the joint. So that is something that I wanted to explore. And given all that I had seen the content that you had created, I could see the level of mindfulness that you had put into it. And if you remember, then in the first orientation introduction class as well, you were kind of giving a heads up that it would be slow practices. It could feel boring. It would be,
Mm.
it may feel slightly slow. So I was like, it's okay. I mean, that is that is your plus factor why I'm coming to you. That is not something I need a heads up on because I know the relevance of there are certain practices, let's say just something as simple as wrist rotation, right? So people do it 10 times. This is also done in 5 seconds, and then there is done like this, right? So slower practices are actually harder, and you need some level of mental awareness there that no, it is important to see where and how your body feels, which was very evident in your instructions that it is not necessary to go into a deep stretch to be able to make the most of that practice. Sometimes not, for me, it was not going into the deep stretch, was making the most of the practice. Right. So I had to, even though I was practicing singularly, I had to limit myself from competition with my own self, from protecting myself from my own ego of what I can do and what I need to do. Right. So it is not proving myself that, oh, I can bend that much or, oh, I can go that much deep into a stretch. No, I had to be consciously aware of why I'm doing your classes. What is it that I need to learn in my own practice or, something that I can learn that I can give better out ahead in my classes. So as yoga teacher, I feel we are creating a very circular large impact, right? So one change in this central person uh, can bring a shift in all the peripheral impact that we are spreading, right? So therein, I mean, I myself had some discomfort around my SI joint. So I feel going through that pain, um, relieving it, healing it, and coming out stronger, I'm also able to understand when somebody else's share it as their pain point. And I'm very happy that that somewhere I can help them relieve it. And I feel as a yoga teacher, it used to happen very naturally to me that okay, somebody as soon as they share a pain point, I would feel it in my body. So I had to over time protect it that no, I have to have some gap. But
Mm.
having that pain point also really helped me understand what they're going through. And also by working on it, devising those practices, those modifications, those variations that the other person can do. Because yoga is not it's a prevention, it's not a cure, right? So the same asan which is helpful in terms of keeping sciatica away is the same asan which is prohibited if you already have sciatica, right? So
Right, that is
if you
true.
have cervical, then you will not be allowed to do the same practice, which is actually a preventive tool if you do not have cervical. So all the people who have this notion of जब दिक्कत आएगी तब करेंगे, जब जरूरत होगी तब करेंगे,
Mm.
तब नहीं कर पाओगे। तब सेम आसन you will be limited not to do it. So you will have to focus on everything surrounding that to
Yeah.
let the impact reach to that point. So when you're healthy is the best time to keep yourself healthy and keep yourself in that zone. As soon as your body is transitioning is your first signal to start working towards it. And I think that is what prompted me towards your classes as well, that I think I couldn't have got a better mix of mindfulness and strength practices that could give a perspective of load shifting, how it feels in joints, how it feels in muscles, where we are working, how we are very mild drills, so to say, I think were there, small practices, but the body was very well tested in those as well. So, yeah.
Was there a specific technique that you felt really, let's say, opened up a part of the body or felt very new, even as a seasoned practitioner?
I think the primary thing was focused on the bending of the knee, how it felt if the knee is
Mm.
bent in the same practice. When we used to practice asana, let's say Uttanasana, Padastasana, so their knee bend is feels more comfortable. It is not challenging. But when we are doing, let's say, Virabhadrasana 3, then if the knee is bent, it's more challenging, right? So exploring that in terms of drills, in terms of asana, and was, I think, my primary takeaway.
Yeah, I think it's also, I mean, I too can connect with it a lot because this is something that I have noticed in my body, especially in the last 2, 3 years, that anytime that I'm, let's say, bending forward or, stretching my glutes, hamstrings out with my knees straight, I don't feel the same level of activation at the glutes, which I used to feel earlier, even if I'm bending the same. So somewhere I felt that maybe the muscle doesn't get fired up enough, especially because we're sedentary also. So it takes a little bit of load to wake up the muscles. And this is something that might just be evolutionary. Like a lot of people feel this, even if you go on Instagram. Instagram is another story. But generally, just to wake up, activate muscles, or to connect the brain with the specific muscle group, instead of stretching, you should try putting minimum load through basic movements like, the hip hinges or just the squats. And that might help you to connect with the muscle in a quicker way as compared to just stretching the muscle out each time that you do. So I think it's just something that might be new in human bodies themselves. And
I think there were two things here. One is the isometric stretches that we focused on, that while the body is stable, but internally we are firing them up, let's say in a plank posture, right?
mm,
Or in the same half lunge wherein we are working more on lifting the heel, pressing the toes, and there firing up of the calf muscle. So, what I had experienced, how I had it in my practice already somewhere in terms of isometric practice was, let's say we are laying down sideways and we lift the upper leg just slightly 1 foot up the ground off the other foot,
mm,
right? So it's not too much in the air that you're opening the leg 90-degree out. It's just simply off the ground slightly. But if you hold it there for longer, if you keep stretching the toe in, heel out, if you keep engaging, there is a burning sensation that comes. So those isometric practices also in the session were very helpful, that you don't have to, again, alignment is more important than your flexibility of your range of motion there, right? So even that uh, was something that I started focusing more on, that again, with chanting also, when we do out loud chanting, there's an impact. But if we do even silent internal chanting, it has the same impact. So similarly, if you're moving your body, mentally you feel more engaged, but you can have more impact if you just consciously engage and get in touch with the muscles. So I think even that is something that I felt in the sessions.
relevant point that you've made because uh, sometimes it's like very small concentrated movements that can make you sweat or just really feel out of your comfort zone. And I'm just glad that you had such an experience that also somewhere helped in connecting better with, let's say, one side of the hip, one side of the shoulder. So that again, that was the whole idea behind introducing these very simple techniques that are not just strengthening but also making you more aware about where where is the body still not as stable or as strong as you think it is. And generally also, I mean, it's not like, I'm not saying that there's something wrong with the body. It's just a trend that even I see as a teacher who's looking at yoga bodies so often now that we feel, like it's very easy to lift in a standing position to lift the knee very higher. But then if you just ask to lift it below the waist and stay there, keeping the shoulders relaxed, I see a lot of people struggling. So I think that even if, let's say, a teacher is watching this, it's always good to take two steps back and just to make things simpler but more organized. And that can be such a mirror to what's missing or where you need to work on as just as an asana practitioner as well. So yeah, I think I wish I could tell this to more people, but I'm glad you put it across, Oshin. Um, was there any change that you observed in your asanas after introducing a different practice of strengthening on the side?
Honestly, in terms of asana practice, there wasn't much change as such. But like I said, it is not about the asana perfection and how it helped in that. It is just in terms of the strength of the body, the trust that I can put in my body now was better, right? So in terms of, let's say, my capacity to hold the asana or my capacity to go deeper into an asana was more or less the same, but I had a different newfound trust on my body of those halfway of that the load that the kind of load that my body can take. So I don't know in what manner they will come up on the surface wherein I would feel that okay, this is how it has made a difference in the asana practice. But otherwise, in terms of just like I said, the trust on my own body of I know that I can do it, or I know that there is, this is also where the engagement is. So the level of awareness in terms of muscle engagement also increased. And like as we were doing those practices, I was also curious that, I mean, how did you reach to these practices? How did you learn these practices? Or is it something that you developed with mixed experience of your own? Or is it something that it simply dawned upon you sometime that okay, this is how also we can do it because from like you said, lifting the knee up to the waist level is manageable, is simple enough. But what if we are holding it slightly lower, wherein let's say the leg is acting like a dead weight. So if I can do up to the waist level, my body should also be able to do lower than the waist level by default, right? If I am scoring 36 out of 40, I should by default be able to score 32 out of 40. But I'm good at 36, but I'm not good at 32, right? So I don't know if that's the right analogy to put it like that, but I think that is why I am saying that the 36 on 30, 40 has not changed, but surely the 32 on 40 has become stronger. So somewhere the process, the progressive engagement, and that has made more of an impact on my teaching as well. That the way I used to break down one asana, like we progressively anyway build up towards, let's say we are doing Bhujangasana. So we'll start from engagement of the legs as well, lower body as well, then middle back, upper back, shoulders, all of that working separately and then putting it all together. But somewhere with the practices that we did in this session, it also changed how I saw progressive engagement of the muscles in any practice.
That's it from our side today. If you would like to connect with Ocean to know how to go beyond asana and learn more about pranayam, meditation, mudras, I'm going to share details about her work in the bio. So go ahead and check it out over there. And I'll see you next time.